Hello, everyone. Welcome to Whiskey Uncorked. My name is Brian, and it is Whiskey of the Year season. Maybe a little late this year. I would have liked to have gotten these things out, or this type of video out, probably prior to the holidays, but here we are. This is my third Whiskey of the Year on YouTube. One real video, and the first one was a podcast style episode. So just to recap on those, my two Whiskey of the Year so far while being on YouTube have been the Kilkerran 16 from 2023. That was super well received. If you remember, I think that one had like a little dash of like rum casks in it. Utterly fantastic. I still have, that bottle's still actually open. I've been nursing it a little bit, even though I did get a second one for the bunker, but and then anyways, last year was the Laphroaig 10-year Carchas, the cask favorites release. Carchas being one of my favorites, yearly releases. Now, the interesting thing is, as I mentioned in my prior video, I have not bought much whiskey at all this year. Certainly not since maybe early spring. Maybe a bottle or two here sprinkled in throughout, a bottle of bourbon or something. That's changed over the holidays. Got some stuff I'm looking forward to featuring here in some videos, but I didn't buy the Kilkerran 16 this year, and I also did not buy the Laphroaig Carchas. So given that I don't really have any authority or any knowledge of specifically what were some of the best releases that came out in 2025, not that I didn't drink some pretty good whiskey, that I didn't open a bunch of the bottles that have been kind of sitting on my shelf, obviously getting to share in blind tastings and just other drams that aren't necessarily mine or from a bar or something like that. Drank some really good whiskey this year. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I can't tell you which specific release should be held on high and exalted for its quality and availability and affordability and all that stuff. So what I decided to do this year was take a little bit of an opportunity to kind of recognize a whiskey that I don't get to buy all that often, although when I have, it has been an absolute banger. So I have gotten to try a couple batches of this, or I have owned a couple batches of this. It is not something that is available in the United States. I do have to get it directly, usually from the UK, and if I'm ordering something from there and I have some space in a box, I check to see if the most recent batch is available. And given that I do tend to nurse my bottles, the one I have was bottled in 2023. I bought it from the UK in 2024. I think that's when it was actually released. Opened it towards the end of last year, and just have been enjoying the hell out of it since. All right, so let's cut to it and talk about my 2025 Whiskey of the Year. Probably not a lot of surprise to people that know me, but Benromic Vintage Cask Strength Release. I really wish this one hit shelves here in the US. I would probably be buying just about every one that was released within reason, because I guess I don't go through bottles fast enough to justify like three releases a year. I think they tend to do. But yeah, this would be on my shelf at all times. There would at least be one bottle of this open at all times. And we get a lot of single barrel Benromics here. That tends to be kind of the compensation. We do get some sherry barrels, a lot of bourbon barrels. In my experience, they do tend to kind of be rocket fuely. They're up around 60%, which this is as well, but man, some of those are some spicy bottles that need some time to calm down and maybe even a splash of water. I've never really had that issue with the official release, though. So if you like Benromic at all, this is going to be right up your alley, provided you like big, bold, flavorful whiskeys. If you're a fan. Now, if you go straight from the core range, like the 15-year-old, which I did a review of earlier, and part of the reason why maybe that one didn't score as well as some other people would have scored it is because of this bottling. Because I know what Benromic can be, Same with their contrast series, although that's a little bit more experimental. This is generally a pretty good representation of Ben Romick. So without any weirdness going on, sherry barrels maybe blended with some bourbon barrels, that sort of thing. Definitely some good sherry influence on these. Some of that really interesting Speyside peat notes that is a great change of pace if you're getting a little burnt out on the Islas. Obviously, Campbelltown is great in that regard too. But yeah, why don't we do some quick tasting notes on this, and I'll gush about it a little more. So this particular batch, as I said, there's usually like 3 batches a year. I think there were 3 batches of the bottled in 2024 edition, which I'm assuming again that was kind of out throughout 2025. But this one is vintage 2013 cask strength batch 1, 59.7% ABV, and bottled on February 9th, 2023. All right, why don't we do some quick tasting notes? Obviously, it's going to get a pretty good score. I'll try to keep it quick here and move along and maybe talk a little bit about a preview of 2026, at least for the foreseeable future. At least we'll see how the year plays out. But yeah, let's do some quick tasting notes of this one. And just jumps right out of the glass, right? This is fragrant, aromatic. It's complex, it's heavy, but it's not aggressive. It still kind of has that Speyside elegance to it while still being brutish. I kind of like Beauty and the Beast, when the Beast is wearing the suit sort of thing. But it just completely takes over your senses without question. The peat is present. It's got that nice like change of pace if you've been drinking a lot of Isla peat, or you're just looking for something a little different. Ben Romick is a great alternative to kind of give yourself a rest from the ultra briny and go towards maybe the little more meaty, especially if Campbelltowns tend to elude you. You can get some of that nice honey still coming through, but a lot of spice, a lot of nice like oaky notes, not like woody tannic notes, but like, just that aromatic wood in the air. I always think of Ben Romick as kind of a little bit of a pork barbecue, smoked meat and like a tangy barbecue sauce. Very American, I know, but it's pretty unmistakable. It's pretty unmistakable, and it's probably about just as fragrant as this is. But yeah, again, I'm not going to keep you too much longer if you don't. It's Ben Romick. It's Ben Romick concentrate without being hot and aggressive, like some of the single barrels can be. At least the ones that come out here in the U.S. are, as I said, can be pretty hot and kind of kick you in the mouth a little bit. But let's give her a taste, and then I'll give it a score. Cheers. A mouth-watering whiskey. I'm sitting here kind of trying to keep up. Big, flavorful. It tastes like it smells. All those notes are there. Barbecue, tangy barbecue sauce. The smoke. It's present, but it doesn't overwhelm. It's present all the way through. What a nice finish. Definitely can feel it down in the chest a little bit. Kentucky hug, if you will. I guess Scottish hug in this case, but sticky, oily. It's fruity. There's that honey is in there. It's amazing how that honey can still kind of come through what is actually a relatively strong barrel influence, but it's not like a sherry bomb. It's not your typical like peated sherry. This is much more kind of honey and toffee. And then the spice. The spice is impressive. Not heat, but just like whether it's from the wood itself or the sherry is delicious and impressive. One more. I'm getting more of like an apple today instead of I was kind of get ready to talk about some of the red fruits, but I'm getting what is kind of like a sour apple, a little bit of green apple kind of fighting through. Just be my palate today, but yeah, I mean, overall, I do think this was better. This has probably been the best batch of this one. Again, you probably can't find this one. This one's at least a year old, but there were still a couple editions floating around on some of the UK sites. I'm pretty sure Whiskey Exchange had one, and it was older. And I want to say, oh man, one had it, one did it. It was either Master of Malt or Royal Mile. Can't remember off the top of my head, but there were some floating around there. I think it was Master of Malt. No, I think. No, it doesn't matter. I think maybe it was Royal Mile. Either way, so you can still pick one of these up if you're in the UK or if you want to ship it over. They do tend to run kind of in that 70 pound range, plus or minus a few pounds. So about $100, I guess, if you're going to do 1-to-1. Obviously, with shipping and tariffs and stuff, if you're trying to get one shipped over to the US. Well, bit of a crapshoot right now. Well, not really a crapshoot. You're gonna pay a lot. Is this worth more than? Is this worth $100 a bottle? For me, yeah, especially when you consider your other options that are out there in terms of flavor, complexity, uniqueness, and just it drinks really well. It's 9 years old. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. I guess we had to do the math, but it does say 9 years old on the label. It drinks like a dream, with just enough oomph to let you know you're alive. So just general, this is like I said, I think this batch is 9 out of 10. This is a fantastic bottle of whiskey. It's delicious, especially when you just add everything together in terms of what it's doing at its age, at its strength, the complexity, the flavor, how nice it is to drink. You can take a sip of this and taste it 20 minutes later. So you can make a glass of this last you all night if you wanted to. So yeah, I'll give this one a 9 out of 10. I think generally, if I were to try to like average out scores for this, I think probably 8 out of 10 is probably fair. It might lean high eights because I've really enjoyed the ones I've gotten to try. But yeah, I think it crosses the line into 9 out of 10s, which I think most of my whiskey of the year choices probably will cross into the 9 out of 10 range. But yeah, this one is definitely a consistent buy for me. Obviously, it's a batch release, so not everyone's going to be the same. You might get a little bit more, heavier proportion of sherry versus, one batch to the next. But they don't sell out immediately, I don't think. So you should have some time to maybe catch a review here or there from an outlet that is on top of things, unlike myself. So yeah, I've really enjoyed sipping on this one, Ben Romick. I've got an old single barrel. It was like in the old labeling that I found like a dusty bottle here in San Diego. It's something that happens quite a bit. You can find some dusty stuff buried in the back of a shelf somewhere, and that thing it's a bourbon barrel, and it is delicious. Some of the more recent ones do tend to be fiery. I don't know if it's because people are the people are doing the picks are trying to sell it to bourbon drinkers sort of thing, but obviously they can get a really a really nicely drinking 60-ish% 9-year-old scotch without it being a fireball. But so if you do pick up those single barrels here in the US in lieu of this, just know that at least in my experience, they do tend to probably need a little splash of water to kind of sand the edges off a little bit. Unless that's your deal. If you like just big pointy in your face scotch, then yeah, that would be perfect for you. But in terms of what's coming up next on the channel, I was thinking about maybe doing like a channel update thing. Probably not necessary. I'll just run through it real quick here. I got a bunch of bottles over the last month or so. Some I bought myself, some were gifts. I've also been opening up, like I mentioned, a bunch of stuff that's just been kind of hanging around. And I definitely want to review some of it. If not most of it. I've got a pretty wide range of age statements and um, even locales. Not of all of it is Scotch. Um, but yeah, they're going to be reviews or independent bottlings. A lot of them are independent bottlings, and maybe a special release or two. Yes, a couple special releases, and I just cracked open another bottle or two that I've had sitting on my shelf for a long time. Just because I probably bought two of them at the time because they were hard to get. They're not super hard to get now, but it was kind of fun going back and almost reminiscing. Because I'm like, man, this thing's been gathering dust on my shelf for a long time for no real particular reason. But yeah, it's been fun. So maybe those will make it on. We'll see. So maybe not a whole lot of relevant reviews in terms of go out and buy this right now. But hopefully I can find some interesting angle to talk about some of those bottles. But I think that'll do it for me. Thanks again for joining. Yeah, we'll see if we can kind of get back into a little bit of a rhythm here with some reviews, at least for the time being. Given that I have a little bit of a stockpile of new bottles, and almost all of them are now open. But until next time, thank you again so much for sticking with me, and I hope to at least get you some quality or at least interesting content, I suppose, here throughout 2026. And yeah, we'll see where the wind takes us. But until next time, thank you again. Cheers.